So this is Star of Providence, and it is a downright flawless game that is jam-packed full of content. Now moving forward, this is the gold standard of roguelikes that I will compare everything to. If you were to put this on the shelf at Blockbuster, you're looking at the bullet hell section. It fits right alongside the all-time greats like Binding of Isaac and Enter the Gungeon. Now to me, what makes a good rogue is a perfect mix of quality and quantity. You are looking for Goldilocks, and that is what you're trying to find when you're looking for a rogue. If we were at Blockbuster and we go to the far left of the shelf, we have something like The Binding of Isaac, where quantity rules over quality, meaning that every time you find an item, you might not be happy about that. It might be an HP upgrade. It might be an HP upgrade again. It could be a piece of crap, like Whitefly. You never know. Now the flip side of that is Voidigo, where the game is so damn polished, there is not a single pixel misplaced in this entire game. Unfortunately, the quantity is missing a little bit, because I never feel like there is enough to sink my teeth into. And that is where Star of Providence comes in, because it has a perfect balance of quality and quantity. This game respects you, your time, your money, and your wallet. So let's start where the game starts you, and that's the first floor, excavation. The controls are very simple. They are WASD to move, and you use your mouse to shoot. For a couple seconds you are a lost boy, but then you get the hang of it. You also have a dash, and all of these things become muscle memory in milliseconds. At first I used the dash to try to dodge like a Dark Souls invincibility dash, but it is actually used for positioning, and often it is used for aggression. And aggression can be your best friend in this game. An enemy cannot shoot at you if it is being exploded currently. And that segues me perfectly into how good the basic weapon for this game is. I'm used to the generic starting weapon or pea shooter being bad and feeling the need to instantly replace it. This is one of those games where I'm happy to report the generic starting weapon feels great. I want to start off with a baseline for all of the weapons. Everything I am about to say moves forward for every weapon, but it also applies to the generic one. It feels good to shoot, and I know that's difficult to actually put into videos or words, but I want to try my best. There is a certain weight to everything in this game. When you defeat an enemy, there is a euphoric sound. When you clear a room, it is a noticeable sound of gleam. And every single time you do something, there is feedback. Every time you dash, you have a sound and a cool animation incorporating it. Every time you finish off an enemy, there is a rewarding sound. Everything you do feels like it is being rewarded, and I think that's what gives this game such a perfect feedback loop. You are always mixing between combat and exploration, and those two feed into each other, and they morph between each other, and the feelings get integrated. And so when you pick up a new weapon, and you are just ripping through floors, and you become the danger, it feels very good, because it feels like you have earned it, and you deserve it. And it is also just visceral. Everything you do has that emotion to it. Everything you do has those giant flares, the big sounds, the big flashing images. And speaking of weapons here for a moment more, this game has tons. You are not going to run out of wacky toys to play with. The drill is my personal favorite, and it can decimate entire floors by itself. The railgun reigns supreme as the top tier next to the secret runic weapon. The revolver is a unique way to fire that changes the feeling drastically, while still adding instead of subtracting to the overall balance. The sword is an absolute insane weapon for insane people who cannot even fathom not being aggressive for 2 seconds. Then of course you can't forget about the Vulcan, and that is the perfect baseline multi-tool wrench. And I don't even think I got through half of them. That's the fun part. There are many that I left out. And the fun part, even more of those, is that they are entirely unique. Each function on their own and actually feel different than the others. I compare that to a game like The Binding of Isaac, where half of the upgrades feel the same. And this genuinely feels like a breath of fresh air, where each thing you acquire is unique and gives a different feeling instead of just having bloated content for the sake of having content. And that's not even touching on the modifications to weapons at all. We'll dive into that later, but each weapon can have a set of 2 keywords, and sometimes 3, that can once again drastically change how they perform and function. Needless to say, you will not run out of fun things to shoot at robots and bosses with. We're sticking at segues for days, because now we're talking about bosses and variety. Have you ever fought the same boss over and over and over and over again? I'm looking at you, the first floor of Axolito, because this game, Star of Providence, has so many darn bosses, I actually can't name them all. That's mainly because Axolito killed my brain cells, and I only have 2 left, so I can only count to 2, but rest assured, in Star of Providence, there are far more than 2, and in a similar vein too, you will not run out of different things to shoot robots with. You will not run out of different robots and weird fucking fish, and a bunch of weird stuff that I don't even know how to name. Dr. Robotnik from Cuphead. There's a bunch of weird cool bosses in this game. You can also see here there is a list that you can practice from, and I love how that solves something that roguelikes struggle with quite a bit, which is having a lot of difficult bosses late in the game that you can never really get true practice on unless you grind for so many hours. This game solves that by just letting you play whatever you want to do, which is awesome. If you want to just go fight a boss, you can just go fight a boss. You're currently looking at footage of Nightmare, which is my personal favorite boss. And this is something I like doing, is just booting up the game and playing a couple bosses and having a non-committal run. If you go through the full thing, you're going to look at about an hour, which is pretty standard for roguelike runs. If you just want to go to the 5th floor, you can get it done in about 20 minutes, no problem. We are going to move on to the 2nd floor here, because you can see that I just beat the 1st floor boss, and I always get the option of either a damage up or an HP upgrade, which once again, we're going to blar our way through this, because we're going to segue into how the reward system ties into each other. If you are an expert pro and never get hit, you can just damage boost all day, every day. And half the time, you cannot even see an enemy fire because they are dead and not firing at you because you have so much damage. And on the flip side of that, if you're a new player or if you're just somebody that plays a little bit more passive, the game rewards that too. It is not going to punish you for that at all. You can take as much HP and just stack up and be a fat tank and have no problems with that either, because this game is not going to punish you for playing the way you want to. Which once again, leads me perfectly into what you're about to see on screen here in a second. You see this secret room right here? That enables a lot of different things, and I will pause and talk about the secret room here in a second because this is a big fight right here. This is an optional fight. Consider this a mini boss. This guy right here is going to tank a couple of your runs, and I still love fighting him. This is how you get optional rewards and how you get Super Saiyan strong, how you go nuclear. Often this is how you get stronger, because you have to take these risks to get the larger rewards, which kind of ties me into the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is the bombs. You can see those in the top left, and anytime you can see those bullets clear off just like that, I have used a bomb. And what those do too, is you saw me get into the secret room a second ago. The secret rooms and everything else tie into each other, like I have said. Meaning that, here, I'm going to pause myself for a second because you can see me almost choke here. It gets really freaking close. What you're seeing is that green timer went down, and so I was able to survive. I was lucky there because I could have choked my revive away, which would have sucked, but I still would have respawned there, so it wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world. If you're curious about the revive and missed that, the upgrade terminal, that is another factor in this game. You saw that earlier when I was picking between 3 different options. That is essentially a power-up that you get once per floor, and you get 5 of those a run. Now to go back to what I was saying for 1 second, you tie in every single component to this game. So if you want to play more defensive, you use your bombs to clear out every single bullet on the screen, and then nothing can touch you for that second. But you can also use your bombs to find secret rooms, and those secret rooms may have more bombs, or it might have more HP, or it might have scrap, which is money, and I'll get to scrap here in a second. But essentially, you are tying in to the main core reward system every time you are doing something. When you're exploring, you're getting rewarded because you're getting better at combat. After you finish getting better at combat, you're getting better at exploring. Then it becomes what I alluded to earlier. Eventually, you become the danger, and you stop fearing the enemies. And all of a sudden, everything becomes a glimmer, everything becomes a shimmer. because you can't even process it before it is being exploded on screen. I mentioned scrap earlier. That is essentially the money of this game. When you go into shops, you are going to see the top right and see the G. That is essentially your gold. That is your scrap. Whenever you beat enemies, the little blue things flying off, that's what you're looking for. Now, what I kind of love is, I know I'm a broken record, but this ties into everything else. You explore, you get scrap. You beat enemies, you get scrap. That make you better at things, and then you repeat the process even more. So essentially, what you're looking for is ways to improve what you already have, or get something you don't have. If you don't have defense and you need a little bit of defense, you can go hard on that. Or if your shop has a bunch of weird cartridges, then you can buy those. And cartridges are these weird little things that I don't think we've seen them on this run quite yet, but essentially they can change the dynamics of the run entirely and give you not only like a goal, but it kind of helps you focus on what you're trying to do. For instance, there is one that increases damage to unaware enemies. So essentially that just means when you first walk into a room, you want to unload as much damage as possible. So that encourages you to take the upgrade stealth from the upgrade terminal, which makes, this is the upgrade terminal by the way, that you're seeing on screen right here. So for instance, one of these could be stealth, exactly like that, where enemies take longer to activate. So essentially you deal more damage at the start of a room. And then if you have a weapon that builds on that, like charge, you can charge up before you enter the room, and then enemies are going to be more vulnerable, and they're going to take longer to be aware, so you have more time to unleash your damage. You can just walk in and explode the entire room all at once. And that is why cartridges can be effective, because they can give you ample benefits like that can just make you go Super Saiyan mode. So I was pleasantly shocked in this game, even though you are going down the same 5 floors every single time, and sometimes 6 and 7 if you would like to, there is absolutely nothing to get bored over. Even though the walls are all the same color, somehow you just never even noticed. Frankly, I never even noticed I was going down the same path the whole time. Which is funny because you compare that to a game like Axelita once again, and I'm sorry to keep dogging on that, but every time you transition down, you want to be somewhere different. I don't quite know how to describe that feeling, but you never feel like you're where you want to be. And this game, you are always exactly where you want to be, and you never feel that dull sense of, oh, I've been here before, I've seen this before. That doesn't exist here, and I love that so much. So that is going to take me into a different point. You can probably tell I quite like this game right now. Why isn't this one of the most popular of all time? The rogue genre is big. It has a big developer behind it. Videogamedunkey has promoted it. There are YouTube videos on it. And I don't mean to sound like a pretentious asshole, but I just don't always understand why some games do and some games don't take off. I do wonder if it has something to do with the aspect ratio. When I started recommending The Wire to my friends, now unfortunately that's a TV show, so I know it might be a little bit of a different story, but they did not like the aspect ratio, how it wasn't full screen, and I would also agree, at first, it takes a little second to get used to. There is something jarring, particularly because we as humans are so used to just seeing the same things over and over, that when our brains see something different, it's a little hard to tackle. And you almost have like a prejudice, and I know that's a loaded word, but genuinely, when you see something that's not the same, you go, I don't know about that. I promise you though, that is nothing to have a barrier over. If anything, I think it complements this game, because I've actually tried to imagine this game in widescreen, in the full screen format. I think number one, it would be very, very difficult, more difficult than it already is, because it's somewhat easy right now to see both where the enemy is at, so you can aim and shoot at him properly, and at the same time, you can see the bullets coming at you, and use your space to dodge properly. Where I think if it was big screen and full screen, you would not be able to properly tell both of those. You would either have to focus on A, your little ship, or B, the boss or the enemy. And I think that would be okay, but it would make the game far more difficult. Secondarily, it makes the graphics and subsequently the art style incredibly unique. You can see these barriers on the side here, and there are different things that pop up throughout the time that you're playing, for instance, based on unlocks. And believe it or not, originally, that's what got me into this game. The artwork was so gosh darn beautiful on those edge pictures that I fell in love, and I just wanted to download it and play it. So we have three options here. We have the defensive, the utility, and the offensive. I go with the defensive one because I'm going to need the HP up for if I am going to finish this run, if I'm going to beat the actual run, because this is on hard mode on loop 3, which is essentially, hard mode is there are more bullets and there is the chance for double damage from some of the harder bosses. Loops are essentially what happens after you beat the game a couple times and you get to experience a harder, more difficult thing. So if you're looking at this going, this is a little hard, or this is a little too much for me, please know that it ramps up to this way. It does not immediately start off this punishing, which is kind of going to progress me into the next part of what I was talking about. If we're going to mention segues from blues, we'll see our way into this one. I actually have two complaints about this game. One of them does involve the terminal, the upgrade terminal, and that's, I'm unsure if I'm using two of the upgrades improperly, but I can't make a damn out of two of these darn things. So the first one is the negate damage on more than 2 bombs. Essentially why I have problems with that one is because number one, I am always using my bombs. I'm always using them either to explore or to negate damage in the first place when they are jumping at me. And number two, I don't want to Pavlov's dog condition myself in the sense that I expect the damage not to be taken when I do not have more than 2 bombs. I don't want to set myself up for some falsehood, if that makes sense. I don't know, I'm dipping into a realm of psychology, but bear with me there when I say that. The second upgrade that I would like to talk about there is the bomb breaking different walls and the bomb cap up 1. Essentially those are the same upgrade on the terminal. I don't understand the point of that one at all. So essentially you get 1 more bomb potentially. If you have 6, you can carry 1 more. And also some of the walls break, which mean you have less cover or you have more maneuverability in the rooms. So if there's a room that has a bunch of walls that are scary, you can break them. But often I'm not sure if that is beneficial. I know it might seem like that, but the rooms are constructed in a way where you can beat them. So if you use your brain for a couple seconds, you can figure it out. I actually think losing walls is a downgrade. If I were to change anything about the game, it would be simply those 2 upgrades. As well as, you may have heard me say I have 2 complaints. The other complaint is more of a nitpick because this one's not super valid. This one is going to apply specifically to people who play this game a lot, more than 25 to 30 hours like myself. Essentially, the outside shop, the shop of the core progression of the game, i.e. all of the different things that you can unlock outside of a run. So after a while, the things that you can unlock from the shop kind of become sparser and sparser, meaning you are going to go further and further between buying different things. And that is not even necessarily a bad thing, but if you're playing the game and want a repetitive dopamine feast, you might be lacking in that sense and just have to rely on the core runs, which I am very good with, but I want to be upfront in the sense of I also found that a little lacking, and those are my only 2 complaints about the game, genuinely. I wish the terminal upgrades had a couple more selections in terms of the 2 options that I mentioned. I wish those were better off, and I wish the actual shop outside of the runs had just a couple more things sparsed out. I know there are a lot of hats in the game, so my personal recommendation would just actually be to put those where it gets a little drawn out, where it gets a little rough around the edges. So we are on the 4th floor now, and things start to get harder around this point, particularly because there are a lot more bullets flying at you. And I want to touch on the hitboxes. Once again, we're going to go back to the Binding of Isaac. That motherfucker has so many things where I go, ooh, I don't know if that should have hit me. And you can never tell if it's truly pride or if you're just truly an asshole. And I don't know ever what it really is. But in this game, there are a lot of times where I feel like I actually should have been hit, where genuinely I go, wow, I am shocked I didn't take damage there. If somebody came to me and told me the developer spent hundreds of hours fine-tuning the hitboxes, I would believe that, because there are so many minuscule little decisions that I feel like could either go either way. Either you get hit or you don't. And it actually gives you, the player, the benefit of the doubt in a lot of different instances. We're going to see what I get on this terminal here, but one thing that I definitely want to recommend is exactly what I always recommend: fortune. Definitely item drops are the most important thing in this game. Fortune is the one that gives you more frequent and better item drops. Every single time you get an item drop, that can be damage, that can be money, that can be HP, which, as I've said 100 different times in this video, will lead into one another. I'm going to lead into myself once again. This is the hardest mini-boss in the entire friggin' game. This dude right here owns me like an elf owns a little Christmas, who cares? You can see here I'm about to run out of the runic weapon, so I'm looking for different things. I can find either the revolver or the sword. I definitely go with the revolver here, not even because I think the sword is a bad option, but I just simply need a little bit more survivability. I've been taking a lot of dumb hits, as you can see, and it's just something that I definitely need to stay away from enemies, because I can get definitely aggressive in these situations. What's very important, I am always trying to look at my ship more than I am at the enemies, because my brain instinctively loves just to look at these awesomely designed little creatures, as well as I love every single thing that they shoot. All of the bullets are so well defined and so clear that it is not only a pleasure to look at, but you simply understand what is coming at you. There are a couple games, and I'm even struggling to remember them, but there are a couple games where you don't even see what bullets are coming at you. You just get hit and you're like, oh, well, that was cool, thanks. Everything is super clear and communicated in such a precise way that you are never confused in this game, which is another thing I absolutely love. You may have seen in the footage there, that cartridge was something that I was talking about earlier. That is exactly what one of them looks like, and they come in many different shapes and sizes, except they all look like that, but they come with a lot of different utilities. My personal favorite one is getting the little small companion minion. I really like getting that for some darn reason. He actually looks like one of the guys shooting at me right now, and he is just a fun little guy to have running around with you. They operate in kind of the same way a minion does in The Binding of Isaac, or a familiar. Ah yes, the bane of my existence. So these are the little WarioWare games, and I kind of suck at those. I was very lucky in the footage that that's one of the easier ones, but have you ever felt old? Because I sure as shoot do when I play games like that. So I'm going to pause the WarioWare ADHD discussion for a second, because this next room exemplifies how well these hitboxes are. Look at how tight the movement is and how well I am able to dodge these bullets in split-second decisions and still not be hit. I genuinely felt like if it was any other game, I would be screwed right there. So those type of WarioWare minigames are somewhat frequent. You can often get extra selections from that, meaning you can get extra upgrades, which of course, as I've repeated 100 million times, all feed into each other. So behind those WarioWare minigames are often where you find some of the special weapons. And of course, once again, you can find a lot of those special weapons behind another place called vaults. Now, vaults are like a special treasure room that appear in some floors. And I'm hoping you're starting to get the idea when I said this game is deeper than the ocean, when I've barely touched on like half of the mechanics, and I feel like I could just keep listing and listing and listing, because you just saw there was a gold bomb. There's many different types of bombs. For instance, the gold bomb gives you money, gives you scrap whenever you use it. And, for instance, I'm going to interrupt myself once again, because this game is as deep as the ocean. This is the nightmare boss that we talked about earlier. If you were nice enough to stick around, you're going to get to see the fight in full. This is my favorite boss by far and away, and gosh darn, this guy is just so cool. I don't care how hard he is and how much he absolutely cracks me up. He is awesome. Now, if you heard me talk about the multiplier earlier, and you're sitting there wondering what the x times 1.3 is above the gold meter, all that is your multiplier, and that is dependent on how much you have not been hit versus how many rooms you have cleared. So you just see me get hit right there, and it went down to times 1.0. So every time you get hit, you lose some of that, and you just get less money, less scrap. And at times like this, when there are so many bullets on screen, that's the last thing you think about. But it does give you a genuine minute-to-minute good experience because you are constantly trying to keep that up, and it rewards you for not taking damage. You never really want to lose focus because there's the threat of the multiplier leaving you, which you don't want. You want the money because you can see there, I couldn't afford the damage because I didn't have money. If I had my multiplier up more, I would have been able to be totally fine there and get the damage that I wanted. But I suck, so I didn't, and that's okay. If we're going to keep dunking on Axolito, which nobody's going to stop me at the moment, Axolito has a multiplier that sucks balls. It does not reward aggression. It does not benefit you in any way. And I just cannot compare them but night and day. How this game wants you to be aggressive because every other single mechanic can reward aggression. As I mentioned earlier, there are multiple ways to play this game, but if you want to be aggressive, that multiplier will give you all of the benefits you want, and it'll give you all of the dopamine and all of the good rushes that you need. But if you want to be a defensive tank, feel free. And I am stopping myself once again because this is a super important thing here. These are one of the most interesting parts of the game. You go and you talk to a little spell magician guy there, and he teleports you to these 7-room isolated locations, and you are in an arena, kind of like a Coliseum battle, where if you get hit once, the room that you're fighting in is completely over, and you are losing 1 reward from the end of this. Because every single time you pass a room, you are granted 1 reward that you will see at the end of this. And this is like a gauntlet of Inferno. I mentioned Coliseum in a second ago, and it truly feels like that. This is a bloodbath. This is not for the faint of heart, as lame as that sounds. So what you're going to see right now is a lot of different rooms back to back. And yep, I just got hit right there. That is how you lose a reward. You always end with a boss. This guy is not too bad. I was lucky to have him as the boss in this one. He is Bomber Boy, he is Mega Man, he is all the good stuff. He's going to try to shoot you as much as you can, but as long as you stay relatively left, relatively right, you're going to be okay. You stay under him, you're going to be fine. Once again, the design on this boy is super duper cool. So you're going to see me beat him without getting hit, which is awesome. I would have gotten another definitely awesome reward. I want to tackle this though. This guy right here is not like a lore dump in the sense of you're going to get all of your exposition from him, but there are multiple characters like this that actually tell a story. I'm a writer, and I don't want to break the fourth wall too much here, but whoever wrote this dude wrote better than me. See, I can't even write English myself. The writing in this is good. It does not force anything upon you. It creates a sense of mystery. It makes you want to learn more, and it doesn't beat you over the head with any of it. It builds a world, and you can tell this world is actually kind of thought out. There's not much that doesn't have not only a payoff, but a back end to it. You can see this character here. He's a little interesting character because everybody has their own motivations. Everybody's doing their own thing. This is not a paint-by-numbers story, which I find really interesting. Somebody could write a book of this, and it could be interesting. In the same vein, there are multiple ships in this game that I am sure you have seen by now. You can play as different characters or different ships, and each of them have a complex backstory that I really like, and I know this might sound weird, but it kind of influences how they play, and each of them have, I don't want to spoil anything, but each of them are in the game. Each of them you see on runs. Each of them are a part of the living, breathing environment that you participate in, and I find that really interesting, how this game can incorporate playable characters and make you go, oh hey, I'm this ship now and this ship now, and in the same way it works on a different timeline. Well, not a different timeline in like a Marvel cosmic universe sense, but in a different timeline of like, hey, I'm doing this now, and then this character is doing this here. It builds on itself, and it makes it really interesting. I genuinely am compelled by the narrative in this game, which for a roguelike is incredibly rare. You do not see games this fleshed out, this polished, in my opinion. This is something rare. This is something that needs to be celebrated, and I'm once again going to take a peek behind the curtain and recognize this is probably not the most professional, well-made video, but somebody needs to talk about this. I had every intention to edit this like a wizard, but I got a new job, so I'm cutting myself a little bit of slack, and I also truly want to put more videos out that I want to see, and I am a little bit sick of seeing hyper-edited videos the entire time. I have no problem with doing your thing and getting people to watch, but I also would love to eventually move to a point where we can let content breathe for itself, and we don't have to disguise it behind edits. That is my dream, that is my wish. You just saw me fight the hardest non-boss in this game. I spoke about the hardest mini-boss earlier. That motherfucker right there absolutely shreks me. The current priority for survival would be finding a new weapon. I'm working with the basic weapon right now, which I of course have said is not bad, and you can even see it's faring pretty darn well against the harder bosses and the harder mini-bosses and all that good stuff. What I would love though is for something where I don't have to use my brain or use my skill and just instantly clear the rooms for me. That always feels good, and it is always going to make things easier. What you definitely can never do though, if you do get those, is start checking out, because there have been a couple of times where I've gotten weapons like that and thought the run was guaranteed. I walk into the boss room and I even get down to, let's say, a quarter HP, and then I take 4 or 5 hits in a row, and I end up losing the run right then and there, and I am a little disappointed for darn sure. And I think that's something that I want to touch on for a second, why I brought it up in the first place, because The Binding of Isaac is one of my favorite games of all time, and at the same time, you can fall into a rut where some runs are either definitely won, i.e. you are so strong that it doesn't even matter what final boss you walk into, that thing is getting demolished whether it wants to or not, whether you want it to or not. Or there are some runs that suck so stinking bad, you'd rather just go put your head in a blender, jump into a wood chipper, and never be seen again. And that's okay, because The Binding of Isaac can do that to you sometimes. Once again, I am extremely happy to report this game does not have that. It can strike the Goldilocks balance between you are overpowered when you walk into a run, when you walk into the final boss of a run, and it can humble you. It can make you look like a toddler. And at the same time, there are many instances where you can clutch up and you can show the final boss, yo, I'm here to play too. I'm a big boy in this ring. And let me not sound too intimidating. Don't meet me in a dark alley. But genuinely, there are sways to this. It is a seesaw. So I've kind of teased there are multiple final bosses, and I want to continue to tease that. I want to be a tease until the end of time, because I want you to discover some of them. You're going to see one of them here in a couple of minutes, but I want to emphasize, I actually haven't even seen, I suppose, the true final boss, because at the time of this recording, I am only on loop 7, and there are 14 loops, meaning that there is still a couple other bosses that I haven't even seen, which is not only exciting to think about, but it is also thrilling to experience each time you find something new. And you've been playing this game for me for about 47 hours now, which is scary to think about because, you know, I could have been working during that time, but who cares about that? This feels like a good time to reinforce how much value this game has, how much content, how much bang for your buck, how much of this game is all killer, no filler. It does not waste your time, it is action-packed, it is downright inexpensive for what it gives you, for how much it respects you, your intelligence, your wallet, and your time. This is a game where you can feel the love put in. I am not sponsored by this, but I am absolutely damn sure that Team D13 put every second of their life and blood, sweat, and tears into this game, because when you play it, you can feel it. And I know I am somebody that works off a lot of emotions, but that is just the way that I am, and I will never apologize for that. So what you're looking at here is a beautiful heckin' game.